Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ACEC Financial Wellness webinar series, where we'll be discussing preparing for retirement with Bob Regenfuss from Transamerica. We appreciate all of you taking the time to join us today. We have just a few items to go over before we get started. First, in order to ensure everyone has the ability to hear the information presented by our guest speaker, everyone will be on mute during the webinar. Second, please feel free to write in any questions you have at any time using the Q&A tool on the webinar menu. And at the end, we'll take some time to go through these together. And last, third, there will be several polling questions throughout the presentation. So please feel free to submit your answers as the questions arise. Your answers are anonymous. Only the percentages for each answer will be shown. And now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker from Transamerica. Bob brings more than a decade of financial services experience to his role as a regional manager of retirement services and retirement plan consultants with Transamerica. His responsibilities include conducting financial education workshops and seminars focusing on retirement income planning, Social Security, Medicare, as well as topics such as money, management, and general retirement planning. A graduate of the University of Minnesota in Economics, Business, and Marketing, Bob holds his Series 7, Series 6, Series 66, and Series 63 registrations. He is also a chartered retirement planning counselor professional and a member of the Financial Planning Association. Thank you so much for leading us through this webinar today, Bob, and now I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Well, thanks, Tori. Well, good day, everybody. You know, the topic of retirement and retirement planning can seem very complex, and for good reason. I mean, there's a ton of information out there about retirement, which really creates its own challenge. So of all that information that's floating out there, what if it really matters to you? I'm hoping to bring some clarity to the complexity of retirement and retirement income planning, and hopefully it's going to be rather easy, as you'll soon see. Now, I'm here today to introduce you as to what we do and what we really think are the important next steps as you get ready for your retirement. And really the payoff comes when you actually speak with a retirement planner to really make a plan yours. Now, some of you may be pleasantly surprised to learn that you may not have as much to do as you would have thought you would have had to do for retirement. So our goal today is really this, I'm hoping to give you some clarity and confidence about not only what it takes to get to retirement, but what it takes to get through retirement. And that really begins with getting answers to important retirement-related questions, learning a little bit about the overall retirement planning process, and then identify, so what do you have to do next? Ultimately, though, at some point in time, all of you will answer one simple but challenging question, and that is, can you afford to retire? If it's not now, when can you? And if it's now or soon, how do you do that? So here's one of those first polling questions to kind of get this kicked off, and that is, how are you feeling about retirement? Are you anxious? Are you intimidated? Confident, excited, probably feeling a whole range of those emotions, but what was the primary reason for signing up for our call today? And you may hear a little momentary silence. This is because we're waiting for the votes to come in. Okay. So it looks like we've got our work cut out for us. You're definitely not alone. Oftentimes people are excited but have some anxiety about this. And that's okay, because there's going to be things you don't know, won't know, and quite frankly, you can't know. That's okay. Hopefully by the end of our talk today, you feel a little bit better about, kind of where you're going and how you can get there. So then we've got a follow-up question is, have you started to develop your plan yet for retirement? Most notably, have you started to, try and figure out where your money's going to come from in retirement? This is simply yes or no. And if the answer is no, that's quite all right. We know most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do their retirement. So if that's you, that's okay. Oh, good. This is refreshing to see. Normally, I see a little bit stronger to the no, but this is great. I see a lot of you are well on your way. So the follow-up question to that is, so for those of you folks who said no, why haven't you? Is it maybe you didn't know where to start, hadn't thought about it too much just yet, maybe didn't think you had the appropriate resources, or if you already have to start to develop your plan, you can click on that last box as well. Oh, okay. Yep, that normally is the number one answer, is people didn't really know where to start. Well, hopefully I'm going to show you where that process begins. Because, recent research indicates that although we're all more aware of the need for retirement savings and issues around retirement, sometimes that awareness hasn't necessarily translated into action. By and large, people sometimes feel like they haven't saved enough or have no idea where their money is going to come from, or, like you said, how you're going to get started with this process. And people are pretty freaked out about retirement. That's okay. What we do see, though, is that 6 out of 6 people plan to retire. But the problem is that statistically, only 1 out of 6 people actually have a plan for retirement. And for many, that small percentage, it's simply that they hope that they save enough into a retirement plan at work, that between that and Social Security and whatever other sources they have, they kind of hope that it's going to be okay. But I don't want the words retirement planning to scare you, because it's really about understanding the choices you have and what goes into it. Retirement's all about choices. It's not about rules. Now, most people try to retire only once. We retire every day. So we're a retirement solutions provider. And today, what we want to talk about is lessons you can learn from those people who have had a plan, as well as the lessons you can learn from those folks who didn't really have a plan. So, for the people that really didn't have a plan in retirement, what we find is they simply spend their retirement savings until it runs out and just try to deal with it then. And sometimes people think that they can spend more earlier on in retirement. That's simply not the case. And Tori, if you want to advance a slide, that would be great. Because research tells us that many quote-unquote normal Americans use somewhere between 10 to 20% of their retirement savings every year. Now, with spending rates like that, it doesn't take any sort of fancy calculator to tell you that savings will last all that long. So what this really means is people are worried about what that next day will bring. But on the other hand, for people who did have a plan for retirement, the opposite is true. There really exists this confidence and independence and the happiness that comes with day-to-day retirement life. And what you should know is that most people with thought-out retirement income strategies did it very close to their actual retirement, most of them within a couple years of it. So now may be a perfect time for you to start putting some more formality around this. And what we find is that people who actually face the task of doing a little bit of planning and done something about it, what we see is that most of those people actually stick to their plan. Now, the new reality of retirement and retirement income planning is that you don't have to do a budget. You can, but that's just one way to get there. You don't have to feel indicted or intimidated because maybe you put this off, and most notably, you don't have to avoid it. And obviously, planning is inherently about the future. Motivating you to take action today for some later benefit is at best a challenge. And psychologist Jenny agreed that we put things off as a way to cope with the anxiety of starting or completing tasks and making decisions. And generally speaking, the bigger the issue, the longer we tend to put these things off. So where do you think the topic of retirement income planning falls into that mix, right? So to successfully plan for retirement and retirement income, it's really important to first get a snapshot of what you currently have. Next, identify what you can sustainably spend. And 3, just have a strategy so you don't veer off of course. So next question that we have for you then is, what really concerns you the most about retirement? What is it? Is it maybe not being able to retire early enough? Maybe running out of money? Not having adequate health care coverage? Or maybe having too much free time, the sense of boredom, not necessarily sure what you're going to do? What do you think? What concerns you the most? All right. Maybe take a look here. Ah, yes, the number one answer, running out of money, followed relatively closely by not having adequate health care coverage. Those are the two most common concerns that people have about that. So then let me introduce you to the retirement planning process, because this is an effective method of addressing concerns that you have about retirement, be it running out of money, be it dealing with health care, or what have you. So the first 4 steps are provided as part of your retirement plan benefit. Find some help, gather and share some information, analyze and evaluate where you're currently at, develop your plan. Last, and step 5 is to implement that plan. And last, make sure you monitor and maintain your plan. Perhaps you've seen the Transamerica Tomorrow Maker campaign. What we hope to do is to make your tomorrow better. So you got resources here available to help you with this. You're not in it alone. But it is up to you who decides to do 5 and 6. Maybe you're going to do it yourself. Maybe you're going to work with an advisor or work with a planner. That's great. Or you've got a lot of resources here that can help you implement and monitor and maintain your plan. But it's up to you. The point being is that we really want you to be one of the 6 that has a comprehensive plan for retirement. And you can see some of the wonderful resources you have available, both via online or over the phone. So step 2 is to gather and share information around these 5 key areas, which we'll get into. And the first one of those is going to be your lifestyle. And that's about selecting, what type of lifestyle can you afford? What do you want out of retirement? Because whatever your retirement lifestyle is going to include, one thing I suspect is a lot of the stuff that make up that picture probably aren't free. So you need to get a handle on, what that will cost you or how much you can spend to make that happen. Excuse me. So, if you're trying to figure out, what that looks like, maybe you think about doing a budget or leaning on other tools that can tell you, how much you can sustainably spend. If you take a look at the wonderful resources that are available to you through the financial wellness program, you'll find a lot of these things at your disposal to help you get a handle and help you get a grasp on what this retirement lifestyle looks like, how much you can afford it, and how you begin to kind of pull those pieces into place. The important thing is really try and identify, of your budget, what are your essential expenses versus what are your discretionary expenses, or kind of what are your fun monies, so you kind of get a handle on, what type of actual lifestyle you can afford. You can take a look by utilizing that personal financial portal under the PFP. It's very simple to go out there and get signed up if you haven't already. And on here, you can monitor those accounts in one secure location. What's really great about that is that it updates that in real time on a day-to-day basis. It's got some fantastic calculators and resources out there that allow you to track your spending habits while giving you a lot more access to not only information but education through the workshops, and a lot of those other online resources. So be sure you log into that regularly and often and make sure that information is updated, accurate, and current to paint you the best possible picture you can find. So the second of 5 key areas are your investments. And investments are just a piece of your larger plan for retirement, but what are those financial resources, or what are those accounts you've got floating out there, and how do you begin that process of pulling things together? Because investing during retirement is not the same as investing for it. Again, investing during retirement is not the same as investing for it. It's different. The difference being is that you need to recreate your investment approach to support the spending you're going to have in retirement. And it may no longer be as simple as just proper asset allocation between, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, what have you. You may want to consider adding a new income-generating component that will last throughout your lifetime. And this is also the time when people start thinking about consolidating things, maybe bringing some things together. And I'm not necessarily talking about putting all of your eggs in one basket, but I'm talking about making sure you've got the right eggs in the right baskets. And that can most easily be accomplished by having the same perspective, looking at the whole. Everything you have should be working as effectively and efficiently for you as possible. And you worked hard to save that money ought to work hard for you. So it may be best to have the same perspective, looking at the whole. With the investments component, though, what you really need to figure out is, what's the right strategy for you, and who's going to make sure that that happens. Maybe you lean on things like target date funds or asset allocation funds. Maybe you lean on just rebalancing your portfolio every quarter or annually. Maybe you have investment managers that give you guidance or advice and tell you what to do. Figure out what the right strategy is for you and who's going to help you monitor and maintain that. That's the key takeaway from investments. And moving on, next is healthcare. This is undoubtedly where people have a lot of questions as if thinking about retiring, or heck, if they're already in it, because this part is new to most people. Most people have always relied on either their employer or their spouse's employer to select and offer benefits. For you, though, a great place to start is first take inventory about what are the benefits that you need and compare that to anything that's available to you. If you are fortunate enough to have access to some sort of retiree medical benefits, either through your job or your spouse's job, they're kind of far and few between, but there are still some out there. Maybe you're in a service and have access to veterans benefits, either through the VA program or maybe TriStar or TRICARE. Again, stack up what you have, compare it to what you need so you can fill in the gaps. Now, many of us don't have access to any of these sort of retiree health benefits. So if that's you, please don't be intimidated and please don't be scared, because there's hope. Because there are a variety of Medicare options out there. So of those options that are out there, you just need to determine, so what's the right combination for you? Because there's basic or traditional Medicare to begin with. And then you can round out your coverage with Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug programs, or even supplemental Medicare plans. And that combination will be different for everybody in this call, especially depending upon where you live, because it does differ in some states. And it'll be different for everybody. But nonetheless, all of you at some point in time will need to recreate your health care benefits in retirement. Now, if you don't have anybody to turn to, we've got resources available to you as well that you can lean on and reach out to help you figure out where you can put these things into place. So if you don't have anybody that you feel like can confidently help you out with that, please lean on us. We've got resources available to you that are all complimentary and obviously no obligation. We got resources that can help you out with this. So next key area is your legacy or protection side of things, and really three categories you need to consider protecting, and that is your nest egg, or what you've got saved. Next is your financial legacy, and the third is your estate. And everybody needs a little bit of estate planning. It's not just for rich, wealthy people. And really, as it relates to the estate side of things, and that really goes down to a handful of key legal documents, which we'll see on the next slide. And this is usually the place that most people need to get in order, because this is the one that people usually put off the most. And that really revolves around these key legal documents. A will, a letter of instruction. You may know that differently. So have you ever heard of your last will and testament? Letter of instruction is the testamentary part of your will. It basically explains why people get what they get. Advanced medical directives or healthcare proxies. Remember what happened to Terry Schiavo in Florida in the 90s? Make sure your wishes are clear to your family. And last is a power of attorney. Some of you may need a fifth one, and that would be either a living will or a living trust. But that's just not everybody needs one of those. But most people should get at least these four basic legal documents put into place. So moving on into our final key area is income. And we addressed this earlier. This is the number one concern. Most people are concerned about running out of money before they run out of retirement. So income planning in retirement is all about trying to create a more sustainable, more reliable income for yourself during your retirement. So think about this. How do you navigate things like Social Security, pension options if you've got those available to you, and then how do you turn your savings into spending to supplement those other sources? And we can get started a little bit by talking about Social Security. I would suspect for most of us, full retirement is somewhere between 66 and 67. You can delay taking Social Security up until age 70, or you can begin collecting it as early as age 62. And technically, I guess you could delay taking it longer than 70, but there's absolutely no reason. That's when your benefit stops growing. And I know a lot of people nowadays are taking Social Security early. And I might be one of the first retirement guys to tell you this, but taking Social Security early isn't necessarily a bad decision. It's not. It's not necessarily a good decision either. It's just a decision that you need to make for yourself. If you do decide to take it early, a couple of things you need to know. First is you will get less than what you would have gotten at your full retirement age. So if your full retirement age was 66, you begin collecting at 62, you'll get about 25% less than what you would have gotten at age 66. And that is a permanent reduction. You will always get 25% less than what it would have been. If you delay taking Social Security, you'll get what's called a delayed retirement credit, which means they'll pay you 8% more per year you wait to take it. So again, if your full retirement age was 66, you delay taking that for 4 years up until 70. Well, 4 years times 8% means the check you start collecting at 70 will be about 132% of what it would have been at your full retirement age. But there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is this. There's something out there called the Rule of 78. What the Rule of 78 states is that if you think you're going to live to age 78 or longer, you're better off, financially speaking, to delay taking Social Security until at least your full retirement age. Because sometimes people are under the misconception that, okay, well, I'm going to start collecting at 62, it's going to pay me for more years, which means it's going to pay me more money, right? No, wrong. About age 78 is that even point where your full retirement benefits made up for just those earlier years worth of reduced payments that you're not locked into. But taking Social Security early might not be a bad decision. So if you take it early, just know you'll get less. But sometimes less is enough, right? So if you can collect enough Social Security at 64, along with the other sources of income you have in your retirement accounts that allows you to retire the way you want to, who cares if you get more by waiting until 67, right? So you just need to figure out when that is enough. For single people, Social Security is really straightforward. It's based on your highest 35 earnings years and what age you want to begin collecting it. But for other folks, if you've been divorced, widowed, or still married, there's a variety of different ways you can claim Social Security. And you may file for Social Security differently at different ages. So perhaps the decision on when to retire and when to begin collecting Social Security may not necessarily be the same decision. So this may be a change in the idea of, I'll just take whatever I can get when I can get it. So I probably should have a conversation about that. We've got tools that can help you out with that. There's a lot of Social Security calculators out there. So you do want to get this part of the equation as correct as possible, if that makes any sense. Because in all likelihood, Social Security will actually make up better than 50% of your overall income in retirement. Which kind of leads us to our next point, is that, how do you go out and actually build your income strategy? Well, this might be what you want to think about in recreating your income in retirement. And it begins with that top line. It begins with first understanding what your desired lifestyle looks like. That is either by doing a budget of knowing what that will cost, or leaning on some other tool that just tells you how much you can spend. And then you want to start stacking up the sources of income you have to that. And that begins with Social Security and pensions. So once you get that white block and that red block kind of put up there, the next step in the process then is what you see with that other black line, which is your basic lifestyle. You need to determine what is your basic, or what do you consider to be your essential lifestyle costs. Now, I'm not talking like bread and water to keep the lights on here. I'm talking like trade-offs. Like for me personally, golf is an essential retirement expense. But maybe the trade-off is, instead of playing 2 or 3 times a week like I want to, maybe I'll play 2 or 3 times a month. Maybe that trip we want to take every year, we do it every other year, or something to a lesser extent. In essence, consider what you consider to be essential. Really, what we found is probably close to 60 to 80% of your overall income needs in retirement should come from stable, relatively reliable sources. So if you happen to have a gap between your essential or basic lifestyle expenses and what Social Security and pension will create for you, you may need to carve out some of your own retirement accounts and, in essence, create some sustainable income, or create your personal pension to cover at least those essential costs. The rest of that money, though, between your essential and desired lifestyle, ultimately that is just your fun money, or some professionals refer to that as your discretionary expenses. A strategy like this may allow you to sleep better at night and live better during the day, because what you've done is built a floor of income that covers what you consider to be essential that you can outlive. So this kind of whole concern about running out of money before you run out of retirement starts to go away, because you built yourself a sustainable floor of income. So let me ask you then, how long do you suspect that retirement will last? Would you say less than 10 years, 10 to 20 years, more than 20 years, more than 30 years? What do you think? Please go ahead and vote. Ah, good. I'm glad that nobody said less than 10 years. But take a look at that. A majority of you said more than 20 years and more than 30 years. You're absolutely right. If you don't believe me, take a look at when next time you're at the store, how many happy 100th birthday cards you can find. Maybe a better way to put it is the definition of old has changed, hasn't it? I mean, think about what the definition of old means to you now, and what did the definition of old mean to you, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Point being is that you're going to be retired for a long time. You need to figure out, how you can make your income last as long as you do. So overall, step 3 in this planning process is to let some professionals run some scenarios for you. It's really easy to build a plan moving forward if you know where you're coming from. So in lifestyle, it's understanding what type of lifestyle you can afford. In investments, it's getting a consolidated view of what you have and compare what it should be. In healthcare, it's understanding the options that are available to you. How do you recreate your healthcare benefits, and importantly, how the costs of that coverage will impact your income plan. In protection, it's making sure you get those key legal documents put into place. And finally, in income, it's about, how are you going to generate the income? How are you going to put those Lego blocks together for you to create a reliable, sustainable income for yourself during your retirement years? Because then the next step, step 4, is to simply create your plan. So to create your options. Can you afford to retire right now? If it's not now, when can you, and how do you get there? But if it is now or soon, how do you do that? How do you make that as easy, reliable, and sustainable as possible? Then finally, step 5 and step 6 is to simply choose the plan you want to implement and make sure you monitor and maintain whatever it is. So once you get to the point of having a plan in front of you, really the last thing to decide is, is this something you're going to take a shot at yourself, or are you going to have somebody else do it for you? It really boils down again to these 6 simple steps. The retirement planning process is an effective method that allows people to work through the complexities about retirement and concerns that they have. So again, we want to help to make your tomorrow better. We want you to be one of the 6 that has a plan for retirement, because retirement's not just about money. Retirement is about your lifestyle. It's a real simple process to get through. So don't feel like it's, the Mount Everest is standing in front of you to get this stuff accomplished. So kind of a couple of questions here to wrap it up. Now, how close to retiring do you think you may be? Now, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's all anonymous again. It's just that your next step really depends upon how close to retiring you think you may be. Okay, good. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. So let's speak to those. So one of the real key benefits of kind of attending this and this whole financial wellness program is that you got access to folks that can help you out with this stuff. And a key benefit of your retirement plan being through Transamerica is you get access to these services at no cost or charge to help you get ready for retirement. So, if you're still a few years away, take advantage of some of the other great tools and information available to you. Take a look at that on your financial wellness website. Take a look at all of the things that are out there, be it budgets, be it worksheets, be it monthly webinars that help you learn more about how you can prepare for a successful transition. So all of this stuff is available to you right at your fingertips. So after all, it's never too early to get started for that. But if you are within a couple of years of retirement, you or your spouse, it's time to get started on your own retirement spending plan, or how you're going to create income. So I hope that you found our presentation informative, a little bit entertaining with the polling software. And if you thought that was pretty good, when you actually make this applicable to you, it's when it gets even better. The reason why is because it's when it all becomes applicable to you. So check us out. Check us out on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, tune into the YouTube channel, or join the LinkedIn group. So you've got access to a lot of media ways to get in touch with us. Well,
great. Thank you so much, Bob.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you sharing your time and knowledge with everyone here today. And we will now start addressing some of the questions that have been filtering in. Please remember, if you have any questions, you can submit them using the Q&A tool on the webinar menu. And as Bob mentioned, you can always reach out to ACECRT's Financial Wellness Help Center. You can call us at 844-ACECRT8, or you can email us at financialwellness@acecrt.com. Our first question, Bob, what guidance would you give to those who are months away from retirement, especially to those who are most recently impacted by the current market conditions? Should they, if they can, wait for a market correction?
That's a good question, and this has been coming up a lot recently, obviously, as we've seen a lot of fluctuations with the market. And so if you think you're within a few months of retirement, if you've built the streams of income that allow you to retire the way you want to, I don't think timing your retirement or delaying it a couple of months here or there in the grand scheme of things is necessarily going to make a big difference, because it's not. As you think about going into retirement, it's not if you're going to run into bad years or bad months. It's kind of when. It's just how you deal with those and how you address those things. So if you are retiring in a few months, chances are things may even recover and rebound from there. But if they are on the downturn, and maybe you can wait to take a withdrawal from those things when it's maybe not so low, it would be a good idea. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think a couple months here or there is really going to matter. Hopefully that helps.
Great. Thank you so much, Bob. It doesn't appear that we have any more questions at this time, so this will conclude our webinar session. Thank you again, Bob, and thank you, attendees, for your participation. I hope everyone has a great day, and we look forward to our next webinar series with you. Take care.